Support for Radio Friends comes from La Brunerie Financial, where they work to ensure a lifetime of financial security for people from all walks of life, from investment services to retirement plans. If you're looking for a trustworthy company that has the experience and knowledge to put your interests first, contact La Brunerie Financial, a community-based investment counseling firm since 1966. And welcome to Radio Friends on Monday, July 31st. Here we are. This is the last day of July. And what a hot one it's been. I want to introduce you to a guy who hasn't been on Radio Friends for some time. It's good to have you back.
Good to be back, Paul.
TIM REINBOTT. And today the hat you're wearing is that you are the director of Sanborn Field.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we are going to talk about a discovery that was made right here on the university campus about, 75 years ago?
That's right.
75 years ago today. It's the biggest discovery, I think, that was made here, and it changed the lives of people across the entire planet. Tim, tell us what that is.
That's right. That's right. You know, we all know that penicillin came out in the 20s and 30s, and some early antibiotics came out, but they were not effective about 30 to 40% of all infectious diseases. Mm-hmm. So they knew that the soil could hold the key to some antibiotics. So they made this big push to try to locate them. And Dr. Benjamin Duggar, who used to be at the University of Missouri, who now retired, but then private industry hired him, contacted Dr. William Albrecht, a soil microbiologist here at University of Missouri. He said, hey, could you help me isolate some soil that might contain some antibiotics? And he chose several, but one of them was Plot 23 at Sanborn Field.
Plot 23.
That has been continuous, Timothy, since 1888. No inputs. It had a lot of biological activity that Dr. Albrecht knew, but it also was a hostile environment because we kept taking all the inputs off of it. So they had to survive, be pretty tough. Well, from that, they found a antibiotic called Aureomycin, because it had this golden glow to it that could take out 90% of infectious diseases.
So Aureomycin was discovered Sanborn Field, plot 23. Plot 23, 75 years ago.
That's right.
And it was able to take out 90, what'd you say,
90% of infectious bacteria diseases and viruses. Penicillin only touched 40%.
We think of penicillin as being the miracle drug.
Right.
And it started it all.
It did.
But Aureomycin,
that was the first of the big ones that came through. And throughout the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, into the 70s, that was the go-to antibiotic.
And I would imagine many people do not realize that came to be because of the University of Missouri.
That's right.
Discovered right here.
That's right. And like you said, that's one of our biggest discoveries that we ever made. And it took not only Benjamin Duggar's intuition, but also William Albrecht's intuition to know this could hold the key to what we need.
And it has saved countless lives.
Oh, millions
over the
of
years.
lives.
Because many people were dying much, much younger before Aureomycin was available.
That's right. And childhood diseases, for example, are, strep throat turning into scarlet fever and ear infections going into the brain fever. Those finally got cured. But also something like Rocky Mountain spotted fever. 1 in 5 people that got it passed away.
Before Aureomycin?
Before Aureomycin. And still today, 75 years later, that is the go-to antibiotic for
Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Now, that's all great news, but then you turn the page a little bit. We have been abusing antibiotics.
That's right. It was
big time abuse of antibiotics.
And Aureomycin is the poster child for that, because not only was it great for humans, they found out livestock responded well. A lot of our respiratory issues with livestock, they started using them for that. So they were using Aureomycin for people, and they were using them for livestock. The nice thing about Aureomycin, it's oral. It was the first oral antibiotic. Penicillin, all the other ones,
Had to be injected.
Had to be injected. So this is one that you could administer yourself at home.
Now, the other thing they were doing is putting it in livestock feed.
Yes.
And while this helped the livestock, they were actually treating something that before it even existed.
Right.
They were treating, by putting it in the feed, they were treating a disease that didn't existed, so the antibiotic was in the bloodstream, it was in the meat, transferring to people then.
That's right. So all of a sudden we started seeing antibiotic resistance. And so Aureomycin's effectiveness started going down. But it also hurt a lot of other great medicines the same way, that we continue to keep doing that to ourselves.
We continue to take medication many times when it's not really needed.
That's right.
And then that bug becomes resistant and turns into what now we're reading about, superbugs.
Right. We went from the wonder drugs to the superbugs because of the abuse of that.
So the solution is what? What's happened with the animal feed now?
Well, you have to, for animal feed, you have to be under a veterinarian supervision to apply anything, any additive like an antibiotic.
So you can't just randomly buy animal food with antibiotics in it.
That's correct. That's correct. You have to have a reason for it. So that's why we're trying to limit this, so we can actually keep this technology going, because there hasn't been any new antibiotics come out in a long time. Pretty well they're saying what we have is what we're going to get.
Okay. Well, hopefully something will be discovered sometime down the road. But in the meantime, we need to use what we have with common sense, not over-abusing it.
But you know what we're doing?
What?
We have colleagues in Canada and Scotland. They're taking our archived soils from Sanborn Field, pre-antibiotic, 1915, 1938, and they're looking for natural antibiotic resistance, because the thought is if the soil might actually hold the key to how to overcome some of this resistance.
That would be fantastic.
Right. So that is even better news for the future.
And that talks about how the environment, how we must protect the environment, how we must care for where we live, because that's all we have.
It is. We only have one shot at this.
Right.
And as we talked before that we went on, you and I are going to not see the ill effects of a lot of this, but the next generations will.
You know,
that's what's sad.
We're out of time, Tim, but I want to thank you so much for coming by. We'll leave it on a bright note.
That's right.
That the University of Missouri has a world-renowned status for finding and developing Aureomycin.
The very first antibiotic.
All right.
And the future looks good as we can overcome it.
All right. Thank you very much. Tim REINBOTT, Director of Sanborn Field. Always interesting to have you. Come back again.
I sure will. Thank you, Paul.
Something you'd like to hear or see, drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. Bye-bye.